Hi everyone, welcome to the Knit Shift episode 97. My name is Laura and today is Wednesday, November 15th, 2017. Thank you so much for checking out my podcast today, whether you have hung out with me before or if it is your first time to the Knit Shift. This podcast is available on iTunes, YouTube, and at theknitshift.com, which is where show notes can be found, where I share what I talk about during the episode. This is a podcast about knitting, about yarn, living a crafty life in Northern Virginia with my boyfriend Josh and our dog Gracie, who is always on alert looking to see who's out the window. That's kind of become her podcast perch, I guess I would say. Welcome to my podcast. It's been 2 weeks since I last recorded. I have a few things to talk about today. I have a couple finished objects, yes, more than one. Although one is like 95% done, and you'll see why I'm saying that in a few minutes. And I also have 2 new works in progress to share with you. I'm on Instagram as Laura Mahalski. I'm on Ravelry as Yarnstormer. And we do have a group for the podcast. If you search for the Knit Shift under the groups tab, you will find us. We just started a giveaway. I'm coming up on 100 episodes. I started this podcast almost 2 years ago, so we're just a few episodes away from episode 100. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna say that a lot over the next 40 minutes, and I'll be saying it a lot over the next few episodes because I'm very grateful that people want to watch this podcast. So I started a thread for a giveaway that will be announced on, well, the prize winner will be announced on the 100th episode. So there's a thread in the Ravelry group where you can enter to win a prize. I'm giving away, I'm gonna try and add something to the giveaway every week so that it gets really mega huge by, you know, I'll be able to add a couple more things over the next couple episodes. So without further ado, I already shared that the prize winner will be receiving this tote from the Indie Untangled event at Rhinebeck 2017. There are all these adorable illustrations of woodland creatures and sheep. Look at them wearing their hand knits. Aren't they adorable? So there's the tote, and I already mentioned that there would be a skein of Shelter from Brooklyn Tweed. It's fall in the Northern Hemisphere. If you're in a cold climate, this is the perfect type of wool to knit yourself a hat. Maybe stripe it for a yoke. It's a really squishy, really woolly wool. It is not superwash. So, and it's this lovely shade, I think it's called, yes, Sap. So it's kind of a greeny yellow with flecks of orange in there. And so the new prize added to the bunch this week was a gift from a viewer who shared a couple skeins of this beautiful yarn, Wonderland Yarns, and I've decided to give this skein away. This is Wonderland Yarns Cheshire Cat, which is a 100% superwash merino, and it's 512 yards, so this would be great for a shawl. And the colorway is Uncommon Nonsense Wise Fish 109. And it's this amazing variegated white and aqua blue and navy blue, and there's even some green in there. So pardon my nails that definitely need a manicure. So that will be added to the mix for the giveaway. And like I said, there will be more stuff added next episode and the one after that before we announce the winner. So there's a thread on Ravelry. You have to be a member of the group to participate, and the prompt is to share what you love about yarn and knitting and crochet or whatever your craft of choice is. And I think I asked to share with me what you like about the podcast, because I wasn't trying to go for an ego boost. I'm curiously want to know what people like about the podcast, because I've been doing it for almost 2 years and I have a nice audience. And I mean that in terms of people being friendly and lovely, but also people come back to watch this every week, which I'm so grateful for. And I just am curious to know why people like to watch it. And you guys, your answers literally made me cry. I was reading through Ravelry. I posted the prompt. I think I didn't go back for 2 or 3 days, and to my surprise, they were the most amazing, thoughtful messages, and like, I'm gonna get emotional talking about it right now. And someone left the loveliest note saying, Like, they've watched my journey to move to Northern Virginia. They found babies to knit for when my brother and his wife were expecting, and it was so wonderful and thoughtful, and all of the messages were so lovely. So thank you so much. I was not looking for an ego boost, but you guys seriously made the past 2 weeks. Those messages made my day and then some. So thank you so much. And then my mom had to go and leave a message. Oh, and the person who said that about knitting with the babies said, you get to share your craft with your mom, which I think is so amazing. I didn't get to do that, and that made me get verklempt. And then I told my mom about it, and she left a really sweet message in the thread as well. Let's get to the actual knitting content because there's too much to talk about, and I have to leave for work in about an hour. So yeah, let's get to it. So yes, instead of getting me in my normal t-shirt and jeans, you're getting me in my work clothes right now because I did not record Monday and Tuesday. I just had a lot going on. The weather was crappy, the lighting was not great, so I delayed, and then now I have more stuff to talk about this way. Even better. Let's talk about FOs. Last time I had finished a sock for my dad, one of two. I said I was going to cast on the mate sometime soon. Ta-da! I have 2 finished socks. I did not expect to knit an entire men's 13 sock in 2 weeks, but here we are. Thanks to a lot of metro knitting time, I really knocked this puppy out. In fact, I have 2 funny knitting stories I'll share with you once I tell you about the details of the sock. So this is Langja wool. It is not even merino, it's a wool nylon blend. It's a German company, and they give you a little spool of reinforcement thread stuck inside the ball of yarn, and you can hold it while you knit the heel, and it reinforces the heel. So that's what I did. I knit a fish lips kiss heel and carried on up the leg, and I knit these pretty tall. I mean, you can see these almost reach the top here where it starts to narrow. I started to get a little nervous about yarn chicken because I have about 5 grams left. This is it. So, oops. So that is all. It looks like a lot, but this is not wound very tightly. It's quite squishy. So I was a little worried. I've not had this little yarn left over when I knit a pair of socks in quite some time, but when you're knitting a size 13 men's sock, it's bound to happen. I did no contrasting for the heel toes and cuffs, and I did not attempt to get these to match up stripe-wise. I just kind of didn't care this time around. So, and my dad, I've decided he really is the most knit-worthy person in my life. He loves socks. He loved my socks when he was sick with cancer, and they helped his feet stay warm because his extremities were so cold all the time. He compliments my socks all the time. He texts me when he's wearing a pair and it's a really cold day, and he walked the dog and he said his feet never got cold. So I have told my mom that my dad is the most knit-worthy person, and my mom actually picked up her sock knitting again. She hadn't been knitting socks in some time, and she cast on a sock for my dad, who I think he was dropping hints, and my mom can leave a comment in Ravelry if this is wrong, but they had gone to a yarn show together, and she bought some sock yarn that he liked, and he said something to her recently like, are you gonna have to give that yarn to Laura to knit socks for me because you're never gonna knit me socks? And that, I think, lit a fire under my mom, and so she cast on a toe-up sock. I don't think it was her first, but it was magic loop for the first time, I'm pretty sure. And we did a FaceTime date 2 days ago, Monday night, and I helped her with the fish lips kiss heel. I mean, she did it all, of course. I just kind of helped her. I talked her through the instructions because, like me, I can read the instructions, but it helps to have someone to talk it through as I do it, and then it really gets set in my muscle memory and I can wrap my head around it better. So she did the fish lips kiss heel with flying colors and is now on her way. And in fact, she was knitting. She started another sock for herself. So she has 2 pairs going, and she did a fish lips kiss heel on that sock the very next day. So it's a great heel, whether you knit from the top down, or the cuff, or toe down. I can't get my words out today. Whether you knit toe up or whether you knit cuff down, the fish lips kiss heel is reversible, and it's a great heel. So I highly recommend it. So my stories about knitting these socks for my dad. I would knit these one at a time, and I was on the metro recently, and there was a woman who was with her baby who was about a year old, and I was knitting and looking out the window, and she looked over at me and she said, and people generally don't talk to you about your knitting. I wear headphones almost all the time, and I think I had them on that day, but I could tell she wanted to talk to me. And so she said something, and I took my earbuds out, and she said, "You're not even looking at that. You're not even looking while you do that." And I was like, yep, yeah, I've been knitting a while, that kind of thing. Because what do you say to that? I said, yep, it's a sock, and I showed her and all that kind of stuff. So that was funny. And then the other time was I had just gotten on a train. I did a transfer, and it was kind of, was it early in the morning? I don't know. This guy was laying down, sleeping on 2 seats. And he had the way the metro is, you normally sit in rows. It's not like the New York subway where you only sit on the perimeter. There are rows in the DC Metro, and then there are usually a couple seats that face the center of the train, and those are for handicapped people or people with wheelchairs. There might be a big space, that kind of thing. So he was laying on those and had his feet on another seat, and he was bundled up in his sweatshirt and sweatpants, and he had a hood over his head. So he was all bundled up, and I would say the overwhelming breakdown of the people who talk to me about knitting are women. I don't think a man has ever, he might have been the first man to talk to me about my knitting. And in fact, he didn't even talk. So he was lying on his side, all bundled up. I could barely see his face. He was talking on the phone, and he sees me knitting, and he points at me, and he goes, like, very cool that you're doing that. And it just like cracked me up. So I gave him a big smile because he was on the phone, but it was just such a funny reaction that I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I just thought I would share those 2 stories. So my other FO is the item that I said is like 95% done. I picked this up, I started this project in May or so, put it down because I needed to focus on it, and I got distracted by other things that were more mindless, and picked it up again once I settled in here about a month ago, and I finished it. And it's the stocking for my niece. I don't think my brother and sister-in-law watch this. They're way too busy with the baby, but I'm not showing this to them until I send it to them. So this is for my niece Olivia, who is 8 months old. Yeah, 8 months old. And I am so thrilled with this. So I left off right around here. So everything beneath my finger I've knit in the past month. This is worsted weight Cascade. And this is an Annie's woolen pattern. She has a ton of Christmas stockings. They're all very similar to each other. I will link to the specific pattern name in Ravelry. But I think it's like evergreen. Let me look at my notes. Yeah, I don't have it in my notes. So I use 3 shades of Cascade 220. And they give you a chart where you can chart letters and numbers. And so it says Olivia on this side and 2017 on the back for the year she was born. It looks kind of messy. I have not blocked the stitches. I have not woven in all of the ends. So I have a bit of work to do on this. I also realized I need to add the hook that it will hang from. So I'm probably going to crochet. I'm going to hold the 3 strands together to give it a really sturdy handle, and crochet them on a pretty small hook so that it's pretty tight. I don't want it to stretch too much. So, and I also still have to duplicate stitch red over the green heart. So that is why I say this is 90% done, because I do have some finishing work to do, and I hope to finish it in the next week so that I can ship it off to them around December 1st so that they can decorate with it. But this is one of the most special things I've ever made, because I have never knit a Christmas stocking before. And when my brother and sister-in-law found out they were expecting, it was one of the first thoughts I had. I thought, oh my gosh, I can knit Olivia her stocking. And the stocking I have is something that my grandma, my dad's mom, who died in 1984 when I was about a year old, she did not make it, but she had it made for me. And it has my name embroidered, or, you know, knit in the top, similar to this. And it's so special to me. I love that stocking. And I just got all verklempt. It was like the week of verklemptness for me because I was working on this and I started thinking about how special this will be to her, and she's not gonna realize how special it is probably for a decade at least. You know, she'll know Aunt Laura made it for her, but till she's older, she won't really realize the value of it, to have something that someone made just for you with your name on it and the year you were born. And I was like, after I'm long gone and she's a grown-up, perhaps with her own family, she can still be using this stocking. And it's such a powerful thing to think about, you know, that your knitting can carry on and live on after you're gone, and it's such a special, special thing. So I'm so thrilled with how this turned out. I need to wash it and block it, of course, and do all this finishing work, but I'm very excited to get there. So yeah, super thrilled with how this turned out. So that is it for my FOs, and I will share with you my works in progress. I started 2 new projects this week, and that is all I have knit on. I think I mentioned that at Rhinebeck, some of the women I stayed with were knitting dichotomy shawls, and it calls for a skein of, I believe, worsted weight yarn, so I started one of those this week. This will be a Christmas gift for my sister-in-law, Megan. And Dichotomy is a pattern by Marjorie Dussaud, $3, so very reasonably priced. And it's basically a half stockinette, half simple lace shawl. So I'm knitting this out of Miss Babs Yalza in the colorway Berlin. And you can see it's this great variegated greens and blues and rust and burgundy and a little bit of peach and white, even yellow. And so half of it is stockinette and the other half is very simple yarn over knit 2 together lace. So I'm really enjoying this, and I am using I think this is a size 9 needle because I finished the stocking and just used that needle, but it doesn't have a number written on it, but I'm pretty sure it's a size 9. So I'm really thrilled with this. I'm just gonna keep going basically till I run out of yarn. I think it probably has like a garter stitch edging so the stockinette doesn't roll. And it's a good commute project. I do prefer knitting on socks on the Metro, but this is a good alternative over the past week when I haven't, I was just too close to the end of my dad's sock. So I'm carrying this in a Mrs. Brown's bag. And my other work in progress is not in this bag, but it's in this bag. I'm carrying this around in my Bink Waffle handy dandy little, I use this a lot for the commute because I can just put it on my wrist and knit directly from the cake. So I love this bag. I started a pair of Christmas socks for myself. This is Lydia sock yarn in the colorway 'Tis the Season, and it is a 463 yard 75/25 superwash merino nylon. And I bought this at SAF 2016. And I do like to knit myself a pair of socks every Christmas. I have not yet finished them before Christmas the past 2 years, so I'm kind of hoping this is my year. I'm knitting these one at a time, and I am just at the point where I'm not doing any more increases. And I really like how this looks so far, so we'll see how it knits up. I hope it doesn't get too splashy and pooly. So yeah, I'm knitting this on a size 0 needle because it is rather thin sock yarn. Just my standard toe up Judy's Magic Cast On, increase every 3rd round to about 68 stitches sock. So there you have it. And finally, I have one little bit of stash enhancement, aka yarns, to share with you. I know that I just went to Rhinebeck, but SAF was the following weekend, and it was the first year in 3 I was not able to go. And I had a few friends that were there, so I asked one of my friends who was there to go to the Miss Babs booth and get me the special one-of-a-kind SAF colorway. So that's what I did. So my buddy Karen, thank you Karen, came in clutch and picked up this beautiful skein of Hot Shot, which is an 80/20 superwash merino nylon 400 yard skein. It's a great sock yarn for socks. Look at that twist. Glamour shot, all up close and personal. And it's this great variegated, I think she was inspired by the color of apples. So there's reds and peaches and yellows and apple greens. I really think this is pretty. This will make a great pair of socks. So it's kind of similar, but not quite to the colorway of 2015 that my friends and I all purchased, and I think most of us knitted up. I think at least 3 of us have. So this is definitely more apple. The other one was more peachy brown. So very excited about this. I do have plans for at least one more Christmas gift knitting. I want to knit my niece a hat for Christmas because I don't know how many she has. So I asked my sister-in-law what color her Christmas, or her winter coat is, the baby's coat, and it's kind of a salmon pink. So I'm thinking about green for the hat, something neutral and solid. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully I'll have my act together and we'll start that soon. So yeah, that brings us to odds and ends, the last segment of the podcast. So it's been so if you're not at all interested in personal stuff, feel free to take off and I will see you soon. And if you want to stick around for a little bit of what I've been up to, thanks. So it's been a busy couple 2 weeks for me since we last talked. Two weeks ago? No, a week ago Monday was the art show at my employer, the Washington Post. And some of you will remember I shared a swatch of the P in the Washington Post's masthead that I charted and knit. And sure enough, I was the only fiber arts entry. There was some jewelry, but there was no other knitting art. There were about 25 entries all in all. The event was held on the 4th floor of our building. The 4th floor is it's where HR is, but there's it's got a really big event space, so they hold a lot of, when outside guests come in, they hold things in there basically. So so they had a jazz band playing made up of people who work in the company, which was really nice. They had treats to eat. And I also, let me go get the art show booklet. So they had booklets for everyone so you could read about the art you were looking at. So that was the front. And there's the back. And because of my last name, they were in alphabetical order, and because of where my last name is in the alphabet, it just falls open and boom, there I am. So there's the description of my piece, and I will read it to you. A new post, merino wool. I interpreted the iconic P from the Washington Post's masthead in an original design created from merino wool. This piece explores the relationship between artisanal craftsmanship and the obligation of public service. So yeah, it was on, I'll put a photo in here if you haven't seen it already, but it was framed, I framed it, and it was sitting on almost like an end table, like an easel, like standing up. So that was really cool. And I don't know yet if I won a prize. They gave away they're giving away 3 prizes for, only employees could vote on it. There were some really amazing things there. There was a painting someone did based on a photograph that a Post photographer took, and it looked like an impressionist watercolor. It was amazing. Someone made the US Capitol in balloons, and I think had someone sitting outside reading the newspaper, which was amazing. Someone who's an engineer did a coding project that became art. It was just amazing. I mean, there's just so many amazing people that work there, and I don't even know them. So it's really cool to work in a place with such fantastic, talented people. And I was able to bring guests since I was an artist in the show. And my friend Lauren came, who works at another news organization here in DC. And Josh came. He had not visited the newsroom yet, and he got to have a tour and meet some of my coworkers, so that was really exciting. So it was an adventure, and I worked that day. Since I was coming in already on my day off, I offered to work a 6th day that week. So last weekend was really busy, only having 1 day off, but it was well worth it. So, and now I have a vacation day in the bank, which is great. What else have I been up to? I had a couple knitting friends from Virginia Beach in town this past weekend. They were doing classes at Fiber Space in Alexandria, which is my new local yarn shop. And they had Saturday with not much to do, so we met up and went to brunch and went to the Vermeer exhibit at the National Portrait Gallery. Vermeer is a Dutch artist, and he had only about 35 paintings ever attributed to him. but he's he's probably considered one of the masters. So, and I'm not an art expert, so I'm trying to speak about this in huge generalities so I don't get something wrong. And they have 10 of his works on exhibit in the portrait gallery. And it wasn't just those 10 though, there were works from many other Dutch artists of his time, and it was kind of a look at that period, which I think is 17th century, but I think it's 17th century. Yeah, it was the 1600s was most of the artwork. And so it was talking about how a lot of the artists were inspired by one another, or they used similar themes. And it was very impressive. If you're in DC or near DC, I highly, highly recommend it. It's free, as I think all of the museums on the mall are, but because it's a special exhibit, you have to kind of stand in a special line to get into it. We waited about 20-25 minutes on a Saturday of a holiday weekend, but the line moved very quickly. It was not a big deal. And it runs through late January, I think, so I would go see it as soon as possible if you're interested. Something else fun I did recently was it was just yesterday, and I hung out with Emily of the Fibertown podcast. She lives about a half hour away from me here in Northern Virginia, and we had planned to meet up almost a month ago, right after Rhinebeck, and unfortunately my back was not cooperating. I've been dealing with some sciatic pain, so we had to cancel. So our rescheduled day was yesterday, and it was just so nice. If you watch her podcast, she's lovely and wonderful, and she is super, super knowledgeable about sheep and wool breeds and spinning. She prepares her own fleeces, and she just knows so much about the fiber arts, and she's just awesome. And she has an adorable dog, a Boston Terrier named Alice, who is hilarious and so funny, and Alice just wants to be loved, and she's ready to love on you. And she stayed on the floor for the most part, but I said, I don't mind, she can come and get in my face. And honestly, it was like a dog tornado. She was amazing. She like had me covered in dog kisses from my mouth to my chest in like 2 seconds. I was like, what just happened? That was insane. She was so fast. She's hilarious and sweet, and she's super smart, and I just thought she was the cutest thing ever. She's so cute. So yeah, it was a really nice time. We hung out and we knit, and she fed me lunch, and it was really nice. So I'm hoping she can come over here sometime and hang out with Gracie and me. Gracie has almost a decade on Sweet Alice, so Gracie sleeps like 18 hours a day. So so I did that. And I also had acupuncture for the first time in the past 2 weeks. Because of the sciatic pain, I decided to give acupuncture a whirl. And I went into it with a really open mind, and I really liked it. I did not expect to feel such relief right away, but it was tremendous and a huge help. So she also did cupping, which I did not love as much. That's when something is done with a cup that enables it to suction to your skin, and it kind of pulls your skin up in the cup a little bit. A lot of athletes do it. I don't think it is quite as recognized as acupuncture is in terms of treating things, and it was just kind of a lot of weird pressure. But I think it helped, but in my mind, the acupuncture helped more. So I'm going again tomorrow because I feel like it's something I should probably keep up with for a week or two and see how I feel. And then I can decide if I want to keep going with it or just come back for tune-ups, basically. And the other thing I did this week was last night I hosted my first knitting night with some of my friends in my neighborhood. One of the reasons I looked to live where I do was because I had 2 or 3 friends who live right in the vicinity of my apartment. I could walk easily to 2 of their homes. The other is about a 3-minute drive away. So we usually get together almost every Tuesday night, and last night was no different. So I wanted to have everyone over because Josh, my boyfriend, is out of town for work right now. He's in Florida, and it just felt like a good excuse to host my first knitting night. And even when he's back, I hope to host it again because it was just really fun. He can go in the bedroom or like escape to Starbucks or something. So 2 friends came over. It was a small crowd, but we had a really great time. We were all, I made some desserts. I made a dessert, I should say, and we all decided we were kind of hungry, so we ordered Indian food for delivery, and we started watching is it My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? maybe it's just Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. They have watched it, I have not. So we started with the pilot, and oh my gosh, it's really good. If you're in your like early 30s, career upheaval, this is a show for you. It's really, really good. If you like musicals, it's good. It's funny. It's just really sharp, really witty stuff. So I'm really enjoying it. So I've got a lot more to watch with that. So yeah, knitting night was a success. I really enjoyed it. It was so nice because I was talking about this with one of the friends who came over, and I remember when I was little and my mom was a quilter, and they would have Wednesday night quilting events, and usually, you know, it kind of rotated whoever hosted it, but every so often my parents would host it. So I remember distinctly like my mom having people over to like quilt and talk and BS and have treats and probably drink wine, I don't know. But I remember being a little kid and like staying upstairs in the bedroom of our first house and like hearing them downstairs and like, what could they be talking about? What's so funny, you know? And I'm a grown up now and I can host my own knitting night and that kind of thing. So it all comes full circle, I suppose. So that was really fun. Yeah, so that's what I've been up to. Work has been really good as always. It's been a very busy couple weeks. If you know what's been going on in the news, I am just really happy to be where I am and getting to work there and do the work that I do. So I'm really pleased about it. So yeah, I think that's it for me this week. I hope to be back in 2 weeks. So if you are American, have a tremendous Thanksgiving. I don't really have much in the way of plans. I might make something modest for Josh and me because I do work that day. So, but have a great Thanksgiving, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye!